Good evening. I'm Ellison Barber in for Tom Llamas. We begin tonight with the multi-agency manhunt underway in Louisiana after 10 inmates, all of them considered armed and dangerous, escaped from New Orleans jail this morning in what could be the largest prison break in modern U.S. history. Police say these are the 10 men who escaped from the Orleans Parish Jail, all charged with a variety of violent felonies, at least 4 of them accused of some degree of murder. They were discovered missing during a routine head count around 8:30 a.m. One of them has been apprehended, but the other 9 still at large. Video showing the moment of that inmate's arrest, police detaining him in the city's tourist center, the French Quarter, after a brief chase on foot past businesses and also tourists on the sidewalks. Here's a look at just how close that jail is to the bustling streets of New Orleans' French Quarter and just blocks away from Caesars Superdome. So the question is, how did they do it? These photos show the hole in the wall of a cell that police say they were able to crawl through in the early morning hours, leaving taunting messages on their way out. The sheriff's office also revealing tonight they may have had help from the inside and have just suspended 3 staff members. And this is the new surveillance video just released by the sheriff's office showing the exact moments those 10 inmates broke free. State and local police ramping up their search tonight as the city of New Orleans goes into tonight on edge. We want to get right to NBC's Priya Sridhar, who leads us off with the very latest.
Tonight, an urgent manhunt ramping up for 9 inmates considered by authorities as armed and dangerous, still on the run, escaping from a jail 2 miles from New Orleans' popular French Quarter. 5 charged, 1 convicted of murder, most awaiting trial on serious felony counts.
There is no way people can get out of this facility without there being some type of lapse in security.
The sheriff revealing that Orleans Parish Justice Center was placed on a lockdown at 10:30 p.m. 10 inmates were able to exit their cells because of defective locks, breaking through a door at 12:23 a.m. They then exited the jail at 1:01 a.m. through a hole in the wall behind a toilet seen in these photos. One photo showing writing that appears to say, "Too easy." Authorities saying the inmates used toiletries to remove some of the bolts. New surveillance video released by the sheriff late today of several inmates trying to break open a door. You can see here the inmates escaping the facility through a dock door and running across the interstate.
This morning, after investigators became involved, they subsequently found clothing that they shed in that neighborhood.
7.5 hours later, sheriff's deputies discovered the inmates missing at a routine morning head count, according to the sheriff. Tonight, the sheriff saying short staffing in the jail and inoperable security cameras contributed to their escape.
We have indication that these detainees received assistance in their escape from individuals inside of our department.
So far, just 1 inmate, Kendall Miles, is now back in custody. The sheriff's office saying deputies found him hiding beneath a car in a hotel parking garage in the French Quarter. Now the sheriff's department facing scrutiny about how this could have happened.
There were supervisors on duty, there were lower level folks on duty, and they all had a job to do.
The state attorney general calling for a full investigation, writing on X, quote, "Someone clearly dropped the ball and there's no excuse for this." Authorities also scouring the public for any information and also offering this warning.
If there is anyone who is harboring or helping these escapees, you will be charged.
And we are currently listening to a press conference from the New Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. They're telling us that 3 of their employees have been placed on suspension as a result of this ongoing investigation. 9 of those inmates remain at large right now. The New Orleans police chief is also telling us that any of the victims of these men's alleged crimes are being offered protection. Ellison?
Priya Sridhar, thank you. For more on this massive prison break, we're joined by New Orleans City Council member Eugene Green. Councilmember Green, thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. I want to start with this video that we just received of the escape. Take a look at this with us, and if you can, talk to us about what you see here. What is your reaction as you see all of these inmates just running in this massive group, leaving a prison where they are supposed to be secure for incredibly violent crimes?
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And what I see there is some very dangerous inmates who are not thinking clearly, who are leaving a prison facility, going out into our community, actually putting themselves and their family members, because some of them are going to contact family members, in greater danger. if anyone is watching who knows where these inmates are, I encourage them to have them to come right back to the sheriff's office, to the Orleans Justice Center, to be reincarcerated, because they're just putting themselves in danger and also our community in danger. If anyone is hurt because of their actions, let me tell you, the consequences will be so severe that they will regret that they didn't simply walk back in after that silly-looking escape that happened just this morning.
Councilmember, watching this and seeing how it seems like they were able to just get out and just jog and go, no immediate resistance there. It is hard to believe this could happen in 2025 in New Orleans. This is a jail that is overseen and run by the sheriff there. Do you think the sheriff should resign?
Oh, I'm going to reserve judgment with regards to that matter. I mean, she's taken matters into her own hands. As NBC has reported, that at least 3 staff members have been suspended. I'm going to wait and determine what the evidence shows relative to what should have been done. Certainly, there are significant lapses in security to make this even possible. But in terms of the specifics relative to the sheriff, I will wait and see. Because on a job like this, to be very honest with you, there's somebody who participated likely on the inside or the outside. They felt too comfortable leaving that facility. But anyone who's helped them has got to know that you will suffer severe consequences also, that you will be charged, and that you are putting your...
As a council member, when you hear these reports as a council member of claims from the sheriff that they were short staffing. In some reports I've seen her say they were 60% short on staffing that day. At different points, as we heard Priya reporting there, saying there were inoperable security cameras, also saying there were defective locks. And at one point I've seen interviews where the sheriff said that it would cost something like $5 million to bring the locks up to current standards. How did this jail get in this position to begin with? Who is in charge for overseeing that they have the money, that they have the staff, all of this to carry out their day-to-day tasks? Is it City Council?
Yeah, sure. Ultimately, the City Council provides money according to specific requests that are made. The money has to be made available, of course. But at the end of the day, with regards to the locks and the others, I'll look at what those requests are. But the City Council did not turn down opportunities to fund to make sure that the security measures that were needed were in place. There has been talk of the jail being built in a way that wasn't sensitive to potential incidents such as this, and also security inside. We've heard those. We've been very open to receiving suggestions and to making monies available to make those things happen. I'm not so sure that that is what happened on this morning to allow 10 people to cut through a wall and to just run. I don't know. I don't see the locks that they picked. I don't see that happened that way. At the end of the day, we want to make it as safe as possible. But what I see is some very dangerous individuals who don't care about themselves and don't care about the community.
And your message to them tonight is what? Turn themselves in?
Oh, absolutely. They should turn themselves in because they're in danger. They're in danger in the community. They're also a danger to members of the community. But honestly, those who they have affected through their terrible crimes are going to be protecting themselves tonight, and they're going to be ready if you should come and try to do something to them. There is enhanced security in our city right now. No one is going to allow you to continue to roam through our city right now and to be a threat to our citizens, our residents, and our visitors. Turn yourselves in, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get away permanently. And all you're doing right now is endangering yourself and endangering the community. In addition to your family members, some of them are going to be caught at family residences, and that's just terrible that you would do that to your family members.
Councilmember Green, thank you for taking the time to join us and for answering our questions. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to tell you what I feel about what is going on in our city. I want the nation to know that New Orleans is going to leave no stone unturned in bringing those who are escaped right now back into custody. We are going to work cooperatively across law enforcement communities to get this done. But I appreciate the opportunity for you that you have given me to talk about this situation.
Councilman Green, thank you. We are also following some breaking news out of Missouri tonight. In the past few minutes, the mayor of St. Louis saying at least 4 people are dead following a severe storm. This all comes after reports of a tornado touching down inside the city. NBC's Maggie Vespa has those late details.
Hey, man, it's a tornado, man. We're in the tornado. Oh!
Tonight, a new round of explosive storms with Missouri in the bullseye. hail pummeling the area around St. Louis. And late today, at least one suspected tornado tearing through the heart of the city, wrecking homes, damaging a church, and downing trees. Rescue crews trying to save a man trapped in the basement of a collapsed building. Staff huddling in the basement of City Hall. Elsewhere, the twister leaving utter devastation.
Everything started falling. The roof just fell in, the lights, the ceiling, all that stuff just fell down.
This tap room in St. Louis torn to pieces. People inside telling our St. Louis affiliate KSDK they barely escaped with their lives. This man says someone at the last minute told him to move out of harm's way.
If he wouldn't have told us to move, we would still been sitting there. We'd have been probably dead.
Meanwhile, this apparent tornado crossing a highway in Kentucky and flash flooding sweeping across the Northeast. With wild weather wreaking havoc at airports across the country, temporarily delaying or grounding flights in New York, D.C., even Minneapolis. All of it adding to a chaotic week. Overnight in Michigan, sparks flying along power lines as violent storms knocked out power for hundreds of thousands.
Oh my God.
Yesterday's tornado outbreak spawning at least 11 reported twisters across the Midwest. Homes and buildings today left torn to shreds.
It's just a mess. I don't know what I'm going to do.
At this farm near Milwaukee,
We got one.
dozens helping to move this herd of cows away from the damage as cleanup gets underway and more storms fire up tonight.
And Maggie Vespa joins us now from Chicago. Maggie, what more do we know about new reports of both deaths and injuries?
Yeah, Ellison, you mentioned the 4 deaths just confirmed by St. Louis's mayor at the top. On top of that, a spokesperson for St. Louis Children's Hospital tells us 10 kids have now been admitted. One of those kids is in critical condition, and their families, Ellison, are just starting to arrive.
NBC's Maggie Vespa, thank you. Now to a massive fire at Jacksonville International Airport. The fire there causing a major disturbance, shutting down the airport this afternoon and causing over a dozen flight cancellations and delays. Officials say about 50 cars were damaged after a multi-vehicle fire broke out in one of the airport's parking garages. First Coast News' Riley Phillips joins us now live from Jacksonville. Riley, talk to us about what you were seeing there on the ground. Where do things stand at this hour?
Yes, well, the good news is the airport is now open around 5 this evening, so people are able to get to their flights. But I'm actually standing right outside of right across the street from the parking garage where this happened. I want to zoom in, though, so you can see some of the damage. There are some of the cars that are burnt. You can see really all that's left is the metal frame of the car. And then you can also see this beam that has fallen. It appears that it's fallen from the floor above. That's part of the partial collapse that crews have been talking about. And then it just looks like burnt cars throughout the rest of this row right here. And you can see the smoke damage as well. But I was able to just confirm that the fire is now totally out. Fire crews are still on scene, though, to make sure that the fire does not restart. But we do know the fire is totally out. And there was an issue earlier trying to get the fire out because it was a little too dangerous for fire crews to be inside the parking garage. So they had to wait, and they needed to get inside the car and under the hood to put that fire out. But again, we were able to confirm it's out. People are now able to go inside the terminal, catch their flights. Traffic is flowing here again, but it's still just a very scary situation here in Jacksonville. Back to you.
WTLV's Riley Phillips reporting from the ground there in Jacksonville. Thank you. Cassie Ventura back on the stand today for her second day of cross-examination in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial. Combs' legal team trying to paint Ventura as a loving partner to Combs, who willingly participated in their drug-fueled sexual encounters. Our Chloe Malas was inside the courtroom and has the latest.
In her final day on the stand, Cassie Ventura spoke again about the day Combs brutally beat her in a hotel hallway in 2016. Ventura, who is potentially days away from giving birth, testifying that Combs was blackout at the time of the assault from drugs and alcohol. At one point reading a text she sent him after the violent attack. "I am not a rag doll. I am someone's child." Following 20 hours of testimony this week, her attorney Douglas Wigdor speaking outside the courthouse, reading a statement from Ventura.
"I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors and can help others who have suffered to speak up and also heal from abuse and fear."
Today's cross-examination focusing heavily on Ventura's allegation that Combs raped her in 2018 after they had ended their relationship, which he denies. The defense showing text messages between the former couple the day after the alleged rape, including one in which Ventura sent a heart emoji to Combs. Combs' team also trying to poke holes in Ventura's timeline.
That is not the gotcha moment that defense attorneys think it is. I mean, at the end of the day, witnesses are not great on specific dates, particularly when they go back years ago.
The defense also pointing to a text exchange between Ventura and Combs from 2012, in which she wrote, "I don't want to freak off for the last time. I want it to be the first time for the rest of our lives." At times today, the defense appeared to struggle to maintain momentum, facing frequent objections by prosecutors and regularly stopping Ventura's questioning to whisper together. Combs appeared to be actively involved, passing his lawyers notes. In a striking exchange with Combs' lawyers, Ventura saying, despite it all, "I don't hate him. I have love for the past and what it was."
And Chloe Malas joins us now from outside of the courthouse. Chloe, Cassie wrapped up her testimony today. Who else do we expect to take the stand?
So we already saw someone from Homeland Security testify, and Dawn Richard, and that's notable because she's a celebrity. She was in the band Danity Kane, and she testified that she witnessed Combs be allegedly violent with Ventura over the course of their relationship. We could see her back next week, but there's a lot of controversy brewing around her because she has a civil suit pending with Combs that she filed last year. And I just want to remind everyone that Combs denies all of the allegations against him. Ellison?
Chloe Malas, thank you. For more on the final day of Cassie Ventura's testimony, we're joined now by Christy Greenberg. She's a former prosecutor for the Southern District of New York. She was also in the courthouse today. The Southern District of New York, that is where this trial is taking place. Take us through what you saw on the stand today with Cassie Ventura. Has she been a successful witness for the prosecution to prove these crimes that Diddy is accused of?
So I think with respect to one count of transportation of women and sex workers across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, that seems like a slam dunk for the prosecution. Defense doesn't even really put up a defense to that. As to sex trafficking, you have to show that he used force or coercion in order to induce her to engage in these freak-offs. And today in court, she said, yes, I was afraid for my safety. That's one reason I did it. Yes, I was afraid about my career, but I was also making sure that to keep him happy so that he wouldn't leave me and go elsewhere. That's not sex trafficking, and I think that will create reasonable doubt for the jury.
So even if she said, I loved him and I wanted to make him happy, and also I felt I was under force and I was being coerced, and there's specific evidence of those others, that one statement has the potential, you're saying, to negate the other evidence, possibly?
I think it's more than I wanted to keep him happy. It was, I was afraid he would find somebody else, and I didn't want him to leave me. I was afraid he was going to leave. And that suggests to me that she was then making an active choice to stay in the relationship. Now, again, she is a domestic violence victim. The defense has conceded that. Nobody's saying she has lied. She's been very credible. But if you take what she said at face value, I think it really raises an issue of whether she was a willing participant.
Because she is, or Diddy is rather, facing such specific federal charges here. Let's talk about what happens next, though, because Chloe mentioned that Dawn Richards is going to take the stand next. That is a singer. She has accused Diddy of misconduct during the time that she worked with him, claims that his lawyer have denied. But from the prosecution standpoint, what's going to be the goal when they have her take the stand?
So one of the things that it is anticipated she will testify about is the fact that she witnessed Combs beating Cassie Ventura. So that will be important corroboration to bolster Cassie Ventura's testimony that he was violent with her. I think that's one of the main goals of them bringing her on, and to show he was violent towards other people, including this witness.
As we move forward in this trial, what is the thing that you, given your legal and courtroom experience, that you are going to watch for moving forward and what should we watch for to maybe get a sense of whether or not this jury is going to side with the prosecution or the defense when they get this case?
Well, so I think I'm going to be looking for the second victim that's been charged in the indictment. She's gone by Jane. That's how she was referred to in the opening. We will see if she has, what her story is, whether or not she can very clearly say, I was being forced and coerced to engage in these sex acts. If she can say that, then that count could be a success for the prosecution, and that count would carry a 15-year mandatory minimum.
Christy Greenberg, thank you. And we are back now with YouTube's biggest content creator, MrBeast, at the center of a growing controversy tonight in Mexico after the government there granted him permission to film inside ancient Mayan ruins. The YouTuber using the published video to promote his, or at least one of his products, in what the Mexican government is now calling a violation of their agreement. NBC's Kathy Park explains.
We just got dropped off on this 2,000-year-old ancient temple.
Tonight, Mexican authorities suing a company they say helped YouTube megastar MrBeast produce this now viral video.
Why is this not in a museum? Why is a YouTuber holding this? Get this away from me.
Titled, I Explored 2,000-Year-Old Ancient Temples. The video has racked up over 60 million views in less than a week.
This is the door to the inside of this massive Mayan temple.
Authorities say the video taken inside the nation's ancient pyramids violated the terms of government permissions.
We're going to visit this bad boy.
In the video, MrBeast, whose real name is James Donaldson, explores ancient Mayan cities in southeastern Mexico.
Can I take one home?
Well, I do. We'll go to jail.
I would go to jail?
Yes, sir.
At one point, the influencer, who has 395 million subscribers on YouTube, surprised at the level of access.
I can't believe the government's letting us do this.
And in another moment, advertising his snack product.
The only Mayan-approved snack on the planet.
In the video's caption, the internet celebrity thanks Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History for allowing him to film. But the agency who filed the suit saying in a statement that it gave the firm representing MrBeast, Full Circle Media, permission to film at the sites but not monetize the video, and that they are now demanding compensation for damages. Adding, the INAH condemns those who, for commercial gain and private profit, dare to distort the value of archaeological sites, which are a legacy of our indigenous cultures and the pride of our nation. Full Circle Media did not respond to NBC News' request for comment. A statement released on MrBeast's behalf by a source close to him, saying in part, this video was meant to highlight these treasured Mayan sites in Mexico. No advertisement material was shot at any archaeological sites overseen by INAH. So it's unfortunate that this has turned into a political issue. On Wednesday, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum saying her administration will look into the conditions under which the YouTuber was granted access and what sanctions might apply if any permit was violated.
And Kathy Park joins us now. So, Kathy, Mexico's president in your piece saying that they will look into the conditions under which MrBeast was granted access. That seems to imply access to these ruins is a highly selective and formal process. Is that true?
Yeah, Ellison, it is quite a process, and it requires interested parties to go through INAH, the agency in Mexico that safeguards a country's cultural heritage. So whether you are filming or for research, by law, you're required to apply for a permit, and requests are not easily granted. And while we don't know the full details of the permits that were issued for MrBeast, we saw throughout the video that he posted onto YouTube that INAH personnel, Mexican officials, were with him the entire time.
Kathy Park, thank you. When Top Story returns, the impossible position for one mother, her pregnant daughter brain dead, but the hospital insisting she must be kept alive until her baby is born. That emotional interview. And how to survive being lost in the mountains. The woman who made it through 3 weeks in the snow and wind, revealing how she splinted her own leg and made it out alive. Top Stories newsfeed begins tonight with a New Jersey transit strike that could impact 350,000 commuters. Members of a New Jersey Railroad Engineers Union walked off of the job at midnight over a pay dispute, halting the nation's third largest transit system. Workers demanding a fair contract, claiming they are the lowest paid rail engineers of any major passenger railroad in the United States. New Jersey Governor Murphy says that he is ready to restart negotiations as soon as the union comes back to the table. Fire destroying a historic Louisiana mansion that had been used as a plantation house when it was built back in 1859. That fire began yesterday afternoon when staff members found smoke and then flames in the museum on the second floor. It reignited last night, causing the roof to collapse. That mansion was being used as a resort and an event venue. The owner says the building is now a total loss. And in a first for the Olympics, the 2028 Summer Games, they will be in Los Angeles and apparently will feature air taxis. Archer Aviation says they plan on using electric air taxis to transport fans and VIPs to venues. Planes can carry up to 4 passengers from a takeoff area to a landing hub near venues in 10 to 20 minutes. Organizers say this will help with the goal of a, quote, car-free Olympics. So far, Archer has not disclosed how much an air taxi ride will cost. And the WNBA kicking off its regular season with a new team and players to watch. Tonight, the Dallas Wings and #1 draft pick and UConn champ Paige Beckers taking on the Minnesota Lynx. The league also debuting its first new team since 2008, the Golden State Valkyries. It is led by the first Asian American coach in the WNBA, Natalie Nakase. And tomorrow, defending WNBA champions, the New York Liberty. They start their season here at home against the Las Vegas Aces. The Supreme Court tonight handing down a major setback in the Trump administration's mass deportation efforts. The High Court ruling in favor of Venezuelan migrants who argued that they must be given appropriate time to challenge their deportations. The president's team had deported them under an 18th century wartime law called the Aliens Enemies Act. NBC's senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us now from the North Lawn. Gabe, the Supreme Court has yet to decide on the full legality of the Alien Enemies Act, right? But will this prevent such sudden deportations, at least for now?
Yes, Allison, the 7-2 decision continues a pause on deportations using the Alien Enemies Act, which is that obscure 18th century law that the Trump administration was using to deport alleged gang members. Now, the justices in this latest unsigned decision faulted the administration for giving the detainees just 24 hours to launch any legal challenges. Now, according to the ruling, and I'm reading here, under these circumstances, notice roughly 24 hours before removal, devoid of any information of how to exercise due process rights to contest that removal, surely does not pass muster. Now, that's again from the ruling. The ACLU now is praising the decision, saying this means no more individuals can be hurried away to a brutal prison, perhaps incommunicado, for the rest of their lives. This is still developing, Allison, and we just heard about this ruling a short time ago.
And Gabe, so far, and I understand there could be more reaction coming, but have we heard anything yet from the White House or White House officials?
Well, we heard actually from the president directly. Not exactly a surprise. He's returning from that 4-day Middle East trip, but this is something that he has been very quick to weigh on. Notable, though, because previously, he had slammed lower courts for their decision and kind of laid off the Supreme Court. Here, he is going after the Supreme Court. He just posted on social media, quote, "The Supreme Court has just ruled that the worst murderers, drug dealers, gang members, and even those who are mentally insane who come into our country illegally are not allowed to be forced out without going through a long, protracted, and expensive legal process." He's essentially arguing, Allison, that the Supreme Court is not allowing his administration to do what it was elected to do. And he also called it a bad and dangerous day for America. Certainly, Allison, this is just the latest in what is becoming an ongoing clash between the Trump administration and the court system. This time, it is going all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, Allison.
Gabe Gutierrez, thank you. Now to a rare and fascinating interview with one of the men at the center of the ongoing crisis at Newark Airport. An air traffic controller for Newark's airspace speaking out for the first time about the conditions working there and how, in his view, long hours and failing equipment are putting flyers in danger. Jonathan Stewart is an air traffic controller who was working on May 4th when 2 aircrafts had a terrifying close call. All of it on his watch. He tells the Wall Street Journal he had been working for 3 hours straight and typically tries not to do more than 2 hours because that's when, he says, mental acuity starts to diminish.
And in my situation, I was getting tired. I was having to utilize a combination of radar and non-radar rules that I basically just made up on the fly to separate aircraft in such a way that I could be prepared for losing radar. That increased my workload, which led to me having a close call, so a nose-to-nose situation.
He says the emotional fallout of that incident forced him to take trauma leave.
Then you go straight into survival mode to separate those aircraft and make sure they don't hit. And then when that's over, then it really hits you. Then it hits you. I almost, had a really bad error. I could have, done something terrible.
Mr. Stewart spoke to Wall Street Journal reporter Andrew Tangle, and Andrew joins Top Story now. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us tonight. It is extremely rare for air traffic controllers to speak out publicly like this. This is an extraordinary piece of reporting. Talk to us about how it came to be and why he chose to speak out.
Thank you. We were grateful that he wanted to come forward and talk to us. We heard that he wanted to speak out, and so we decided to set up the interview and talk with him. And it really helped us help the public personalize the situation and show who are the human beings, the people behind air traffic control, because most people don't even know what this type of air traffic controller does, or that they even exist.
Yeah, I mean, an incredibly vital role that so many of us know is stressful. We know it's hard and we know a lot goes into it, but that's sort of where the knowledge stops for so many of us. I want to play a little more of some of the conversation that you had with him, because at one point you asked him about equipment failures. This is what he had to say.
Does the concern about the reliability of the equipment you're using add to that stress?
For me, it did.
And then you also asked him about the long hours. Here's a little bit of that.
To work 60 hours a week, you give up nights, weekends, holidays, birthdays, everything else. Your mental health and your physical health take a toll. It's not good. I mean, the job at that point, could be killing you.
Put that into context for us, because you're speaking to one person who has this job, but he's telling you that this is not just his own concerns, not his own feelings, that most of his colleagues, he says, are also going through and having these feelings as well, right?
Right. Now, across the country, air traffic control facilities are, generally speaking, short-staffed. And so it's common for controllers to work 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and that's a strain. This particular facility is an extreme example of the broader staffing situation in the U.S. It's a really complex corner of airspace. It requires highly skilled controllers. There's just a lot of different type of planes coming into the Newark area from a lot of different directions, and they've got to be on their game.
Let me play, before we let you go, one more clip from your interview for viewers. This was when you asked Mr. Stewart what he likes about the job. Listen.
So you ask, why do I like it? Because it's effing fun, man. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush, and you play God, because you cannot fail. You cannot make a mistake.
You know, for a lot of people, as they have watched what has been happening at Newark, even if they understand the complexities there and also know there's this aspect of construction still taking place, these different variables, you described it a minute ago as an extreme example, but a lot of people are worried maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg. When you think about this interview in its totality, what was your takeaway after talking to him? And for viewers at home who have been really nervous during this time, what do you think they can really learn from listening to the totality of this interview?
I think that flyers can know that there are people like Stewart who are under pressure behind the scenes to get them to where they need to go safely. And whether or not it's, safe to fly or safe for them to fly to a certain area, I'm not able to make that determination. And he didn't get into, that really in the particular interview. He expressed safety concerns previously, but he said that the FAA, in his view, was taking steps in the right direction.
Wall Street Journal's Andrew Tangle, excellent reporting. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us this evening. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
To Georgia now, where a mother says she is being forced to keep her pregnant but brain-dead daughter alive because of that state's restrictive abortion laws. NBC senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the emotional interview with that mother.
It started with headaches. April Newkirk says her 30-year-old daughter, Adriana Smith, was pregnant with her second child when something started to go terribly wrong.
They did a CT scan and she had blood clots all in her head.
Speaking to NBC affiliate WXIA, Newkirk says soon after that, Adriana was declared brain dead by Emory doctors. That was back in February, but she's still in the hospital, Newkirk says, on life support. The doctors haven't withdrawn because that would mean the unborn fetus Adriana still carries would also die, a potential violation of Georgia's strict abortion law.
It's torture for me. I come here and I see my daughter breathing by the ventilator, but she's not there.
The law bans most abortions after roughly 6 weeks of pregnancy, with narrow exceptions. Emory says it doesn't comment on patient cases, but the hospital uses, quote, individualized treatment recommendations in compliance with Georgia's abortion laws. It's all raising fresh questions about the reach of the law. Republican State Senator Marty Harbin says he still supports it.
We have already determined that she does not have life, but yet the baby does have life.
The current plan, Newkirk says, is to keep Adriana alive until doctors can deliver the baby safely via C-section. For now, her mother waits.
I'm not saying that we would have chose to terminate her pregnancy. What I'm saying is we should have had a choice.
Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
And Laura Jarrett joins us now on set. So, Laura, do we know if this is for sure what the law requires, or could Emory just be overreacting or being extra cautious here?
Yeah, I think it actually depends on the hospital's risk tolerance, right? Because if you think about it, the hospital would be risking their medical license, would be risking a lengthy investigation if the state decided they actually wanted to try to come after them for this. On the other hand, it's clear that the mother wouldn't object if the ventilator was pulled. And so I think you often see the doctors on these situations erring on the side of caution because the risk to them is so great if they violate the law.
NBC's Laura Jarrett, thank you. Now to the remarkable firsthand account from a woman who survived more than 3 weeks in the wilderness after she fell down a cliff in the mountains of California. The 27-year-old battling a blizzard, trekking through rugged terrain, all while injured. NBC's Camila Bernal has this one.
After surviving 3 weeks in the brutal wilderness, Tiffany Slayton telling the world how she did it.
How did I avoid death? I'm pretty good at foraging.
Slayton, who is from Georgia, had planned to spend 3 days in California's Sierra Mountains. But an accident sent her dangerously off course.
When I fell off of this cliff, I was unconscious for about 2 hours and did indeed have to splint one of my legs and pop the other knee back into place.
Relentless exposure to bright light from the harsh, snowy terrain, damaging her eyes, forcing her to wear sunglasses even 2 days after her rescue.
Based on what the doctors have told me, it may be repairable.
Initially, she had supplies and some food. When that ran out, she relied on her skills to find more, eating mostly leeks and drinking snowmelt.
I'm a trained permaculturalist. That means I'm very good at foraging. But at the end, after fighting nature for such a long time, I lost my tent, and I did eventually lose both sleeping bags, so I was outside with nothing but a lighter and a knife.
Slayton, a pre-Olympian archer, walked for miles and days.
In an archery session for 2 hours, we walk the equivalent of 5 miles and lift the equivalent of 2 tons. So my body type is not necessarily going to look like a boxer's, but it is indeed an athlete's.
Finding a remote mountain resort not a moment too soon.
Without Vermilion Resort, I would not be here because that was the 13th heavy snowstorm I had been in, and it was going to be the last one. If he hadn't have come that day, they would have found my body there.
The owner of that resort, Christopher Gutierrez, leaves the cabin open for exactly this type of emergency, finding Slayton there just hours after she arrived.
She pops out, didn't say a word, just ran up, and all she wanted was a hug.
And a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
It was the best PB&J I've ever had.
Her parents worried they would never see her again, now at her side as she recovers from the ordeal.
I'm just glad to see her, to know that she's alive.
An extraordinary story. Camila Bernal joins us now from Los Angeles. I mean, Camila, it is remarkable to hear directly from Tiffany. What an extraordinary woman. What more did she say about her recovery, and where does she go from here?
Well, she says, Ellison, that she wants to go home with her parents for that recovery, and said that, yes, she's eating and drinking, but she had some problems with digestion. She says it's going to be a long process where she'll likely have to see doctors. This actually also inspired her to want to be a doctor herself. And she did joke, saying she does not want to be on a long vacation anytime soon, Ellison.
Thanks so much for watching Top Story. For Tom Llamas, I'm Ellison Barber in New York. Stay right there. More news is on the way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.